I'm Elisa Parker. We're broadcasting from the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. We have over 500 volunteers that participate in this festival, and it's produced by Circle, South Yuba River Citizens League. It's a convergence of several thousand environmental, I call them like everyday activists that come here to feature their films. And some of them are even featured characters in the films. They are the ones that are out there making significant changes for all of us. And it's a gift to connect with all of the guests, including my next guest is Jaclyn Aliperti, and she came from Davis to join us here at Wild and Scenic. Her film is called Tracking Snow. Welcome, Jaclyn, to Wild and Scenic.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. You've had a great time at Wild and Scenic so far?
I've had a wonderful time here so far. I've had the opportunity to meet other filmmakers and scientists and people who come from every kind of inch of the industry, and I've seen many fantastic films, and it's been a great opportunity.
Tell us about the film Tracking Snow and what inspired you to create this film in the first place.
So Tracking Snow is a short film that highlights this new scientific discovery by researchers as part of the U.S. Forest Service, and I feel really lucky to have had the opportunity to work with such a great team to make it. And I made it as part of the International Wildlife Film Festival Filmmakers Labs program, and I joined. I myself come from a science background. I'm an ecologist. I'm also a science communicator, and it was a great opportunity to learn more about how to visually communicate science through film.
Right. It's an important part just for both, well, educating our community, first of all, so we have a knowledge, and then also when we have a better awareness, then there's more of an appreciation to protect it.
Absolutely.
What do you want us to know most about this? We just really, when it comes to our snow levels, how important it is to the Sierras and here in our backyard in Nevada City and Grass Valley, for example.
So this film actually highlights the fact that we can take advantage of the fact that we have a lot of large carnivores that are tracking through the snow by more effectively being able to manage them and know where they are through this new technology. So they use something called eDNA, or environmental DNA, to be able to collect microscopic cells that slough off of carnivores' footpads in the snow, and they can be able to tell who is there and be able to better track where they're going, so we can manage for those species and better conserve them.
That's fascinating. So what is one of the predators, for example, that you've been following in this, and what one of the discoveries around that too?
So the lynx is a very charismatic carnivore species that we highlight in our film, but Tommy Franklin and Jesse Golding, the two scientists who we highlight in our film, are tracking a variety of carnivores, including wolverines, I believe mountain lions, bobcats, and of course the lynx. So we use the lynx as our main character to kind of capture the audience and hone into this one species and how we can better manage it. It's an elusive species that most people aren't ever lucky enough to see with their own eyes in the wild. But the great thing about this technology is that, and we even have a line in the film that says, you don't need to see it to know it's there. You can be able to use this technology to capture where they are and where they're going without actually seeing them with your own eyes.
So what have you learned about the lynx?
So it's ongoing research. I'm learning through their research, and we're better learning just how far they're going, where they're going, and I also learned through them a lot of animals are actually reusing each other's tracks. And so there's a lot of, it could be, you know, traditionally scientists will use track surveys, camera traps to try and capture an idea of where these animals are going. And so with this technology, they can hopefully better parse out which tracks belong to which animals, and be able to know their home range or the total area in which they're using to carry out their daily activities.
That's
so we can manage them.
And this is in the Sierras, right?
So this study actually, it's through research at the University of Montana and their genomics laboratory there. And so they study them in Montana and in Idaho. But the great thing about this study that the film's trying to communicate is that this is brand new research, but once it gets going, the idea is that it can be used at anywhere where you have snow and animals are leaving tracks. You can melt those tracks into water and use this technology. And it can even be a really great opportunity for citizen science, where anybody who's out there with your friends, your family, going on hikes, you see a snow track, you can scoop it up and submit it, be part of this study, and be part of our increased knowledge base of knowing where these animals are going.
Can you explain to everyone too why it's so important that we have this information, that we know about these predators and their lifestyle habits? And I mean, I think one of the films that had a big impact for me was the Serengeti. So it was focusing on how predators are like vital to our ecosystems. So why is it so important, like as far as learning about these key attributes, I guess, of these animals?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as an ecologist, I'm always hearing about Keystone Species, which was also highlighted in that film, the Serengeti Rules film. And Keystone Species are species that are exceptionally important, more so than would be anticipated based on their abundance in a community alone. And so they're important because what they eat or their role that they play in a community is vital to shaping the life that occurs there. And so the reason why a lot of scientists are interested in apex predators, such as carnivores, including the lynx, is because they have a really big impact on their communities through their prey base, what they're eating, regulating those population levels. In addition to just better understanding this one link in the ecological web of life. And as we as humans continue to expand and develop our communities and build buildings and carry on our own activities, we need to better understand all of the other species that are living in those areas so that way we can find a way to coexist with them.
Right. And how are you using now this technology? I would think is looking at collaborations and partnerships and the communication aspect, as we were talking a little bit off the air. What's the process for that? So that obviously with the film, it's really important, but now what are the next steps and sharing this information with the scientific community so that we can also better serve both those animals and our communities at large? Absolutely.
So the science itself is brand new. It was just published, and our film bases our story on that scientific research, and we cite that paper at the end of our film. In terms of sharing it with the community, that I think is where things like visual science communication and other means by which we can effectively communicate this work and other pieces of other science really comes into play. So that's what really inspired this film, to try and engage other people who otherwise probably wouldn't pick up that scientific paper and read it, to know that this is a thing, this is important, this is why you should care about this. And as the research is ongoing, I think the hope is that these scientists and others who use this technology will be able to incorporate the community by sharing protocols for how they can collect their own footprints in the snow and submit them.
That's great, Jaclyn. Yeah. And last question is, what's the wildest thing that you've done to make a difference?
Oh, that's quite a question to end on.
Quite a question. It's wild and scenic.
The wildest thing that I've done to make a difference. Well, what I'll say is that I've had wonderful opportunities to travel around the world for my ecological research, including in the Amazon, where I helped to chase spider monkeys, and I worked with bats for a long time. I caught bats, and so I would say the wildest thing I've done is have a belt of 50 plus bats around my waistline in bags and carrying them through the forest so we can...
belts of bats?
Well, you put them in a bag and tie them on your belt. You're processing all of them. Really? Of course, we let them go immediately, after we see who's there. Are they males? Are they females? What species is it? And I say it's the wildest thing because you're really inserting yourself in nature to get this information. But what I'm really passionate about is sharing that information with everybody.
That's cool. Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining us at Wild and Scenic. The film is called Tracking Snow. I'm Elisa Parker. It's the Wild and Scenic Film Fest. We'll have more stories like these coming up.